Picture this. You are the absolute most famous, glamorous woman on the planet, a legendary Hollywood movie icon who has spent literally decades aggressively guarding your deepest, darkest secrets. But suddenly, at 79 years old, you decide, you know what? It's time to spill everything. The fake marriages, the hidden romances, the mind-blowing scandals, and a fatal covered-up car crash that totally destroyed a family. Get ready, because in today's Explainer, we are unpacking the novel The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And I promise you, it is the most insane, scandalous, and genuinely heartbreaking Hollywood story you will ever hear.
So our story kicks off with a massive mystery. Evelyn Hugo, this aging, reclusive superstar, is finally ready to tell the real truth about her crazy life. And we're talking about biography rights that are easily worth millions of dollars. But she gives her team a hardcore ultimatum. She will only do this interview if a completely unknown 30-something magazine reporter named Monique Grant writes it. If it's not Monique, Evelyn walks. The whole journalism world is just losing its mind. Like, why her? Out of everyone, why now?
To really grasp why this is such a huge deal, you gotta understand who Evelyn Hugo actually is. She is the ultimate paragon of old Hollywood glamour. Born to Cuban immigrants in Hell's Kitchen, she dyed her hair blonde, hustled her way out to Los Angeles in the 1950s, and just completely blew up, becoming legendary for her sensual green dresses and her daring sexuality. She's an absolute icon, but honestly, she's equally famous for her wildly scandalous personal life, specifically her 7 highly publicized marriages.
And then on the flip side, we have Monique. And Monique is completely stunned by this. I mean, her life isn't exactly peak glamour right now. Her career is totally stalling out, her husband David just left her, and she has absolutely zero personal connection to this kind of Hollywood elite. She even texts her mom to ask if her late dad, who used to be a set photographer, somehow knew Evelyn. The answer? A flat no. So why on earth is Evelyn handing this absolute nobody a career-making billion-dollar lottery ticket?
Well, let's get into it. Section 1. The Fake Husband Smokescreen.
So the truth is, Evelyn built her massive Hollywood empire by ruthlessly using the men around her. Just look at this lineup. It is literally a masterclass in media manipulation. She married Ernie Diaz, a 22-year-old electrician, when she was just a teenager, literally just to hitch a ride out of Hell's Kitchen to Hollywood. Then came Don Adler, Hollywood royalty, who tragically ended up being super abusive. She had a Vegas quickie with singer Mick Riva just to cause a distraction. She married her co-star Rex North in a flashy PR stunt where they both ended up cheating anyway. She married Max Sherrard, who basically just treated her like a shiny trophy on his shelf. And Robert Jameson, literally just to spite his sister. She played the media like a fiddle, feeding the gossip magazines exactly what they craved to stay on top.
But with a history like that, there is obviously one burning question. When Monique finally sits down in Evelyn's stunning Upper East Side apartment, she takes her pen and presses it into her notepad so hard the paper practically tears, and she writes, "Who was the love of Evelyn's life?" I mean, 7 husbands. Monique is desperately trying to figure out which of these guys was actually the real deal. Which one did she really love?
And that brings us to Section 2. The Real Soulmate Reveal.
Hold on to your seats, because the answer to that question completely flips Evelyn's entire legacy upside down. The beautiful, tragic truth? That man-eating, boy-crazy persona was 100% an illusion. Evelyn Hugo was actually a fiercely proud, bisexual woman, and the true love of her life wasn't a husband at all. Her absolute soulmate was a 3-time Oscar-winning actress and her supposed on-screen rival, Celia St. James. Those 7 husbands? Yeah, they were mostly just giant distractions so the world wouldn't look too closely at her and Celia. Evelyn drops this incredible quote to Monique, saying, "I'm simply saying they were all too happy to believe the lie I was selling them." And you really have to remember the era they were living in. Back then, being openly queer in Hollywood wouldn't just be a little tabloid scandal. It would literally ruin your entire career, your life, and your physical safety. So Evelyn used her messy, scandalous marriages as a literal smokescreen to hide her relationship with Celia, basically throwing herself to the wolves to protect both of them from a society that would have utterly destroyed them.
But their hidden romance was just as agonizing as it was beautiful. They'd have these moments of pure bliss, sleeping cradled together in the dark, or playfully hiding in plain sight at the Polo Lounge. But all that sneaking around took a devastating toll. Evelyn was constantly having to orchestrate these fake romantic scandals with men to keep the press away, which obviously made Celia incredibly jealous and insecure. This sparked these explosive, toxic fights and eventually led to a massive breakup when Evelyn actually got pregnant by one of her fake husbands. So despite being ultimate soulmates, they ended up spending years separated.
And that leads to some really dark choices. Section 3. The Fatal Cover-Up.
See, Evelyn's ruthless protection of her chosen family went way beyond fake PR stunts. The story accelerates into an absolute nightmare in the late 1980s. Evelyn gets a frantic call in the middle of the night and rushes out to a horrific, twisted scene on the side of a canyon road. A sedan is just completely crushed around a fallen tree. It is a total disaster zone.
Inside that crashed car are two men. One of them is Harry Cameron. Now, Harry was Evelyn's fifth husband on paper, but in reality he was her absolute best friend, a fellow queer person navigating Hollywood, and the father of her beloved daughter, Connor. But here's the horrible truth. Harry had been driving drunk, and sitting right there in the passenger seat was his secret lover.
Evelyn realizes instantly that if Harry gets caught driving drunk and killing his passenger, he is going to prison, his legacy is ruined, and Evelyn's daughter's life will be shattered. So, in a split second, to protect Harry and her family, Evelyn does the unthinkable. She actually stages the accident. She physically drags her best friend Harry over into the passenger seat, and she moves his dying lover behind the steering wheel, completely framing the dead man for the crash.
Okay, brace yourselves. Section 4, the shocking final truth.
You might be wondering, why on earth is Evelyn confessing this major, literal crime to Monique right now? Well, when Monique presses her on it, Evelyn doesn't even blink. She looks Monique dead in the eye and coldly confesses that she would do the exact same horrible thing all over again. In fact, she says she would have behaved even uglier if she thought it could have saved the people she loved. She tells Monique to make sure the world knows that all she ever really wanted was a family, and she would destroy absolutely anyone to keep them safe.
And guys, here is the moment where my jaw literally hit the floor. Everything clicks. The passenger in that car, the black man who Harry Cameron was secretly in love with, the innocent man that Evelyn dragged into the driver's seat and framed for a fatal drunk driving accident to protect her own reputation, was James Grant. Wait. What? Yes. James Grant, Monique's own father. Evelyn Hugo is the literal reason Monique grew up her whole life believing her dad was a drunk driver who ruined himself. Evelyn destroyed Monique's family.
After dropping that absolute nuclear bomb, Monique's entire reality is just shattered. She is shaking with fury. But you see, Evelyn has orchestrated this entire moment flawlessly from the start. With her darkest confession finally out of the way, Evelyn makes her final moves. She forces her fiercely loyal housekeeper Grace to take a surprise all-expenses-paid vacation to Costa Rica. She clears out her gorgeous Upper East Side apartment. Because Evelyn isn't just confessing to clear her conscience, you guys. She is systematically preparing to take her own life.
See, the heartbreaking reality is that Evelyn has already lost everyone. Her soulmate Celia died years ago, her best friend Harry is gone, and most tragically, her beloved daughter Connor recently passed away from breast cancer at just 41 years old. Evelyn is completely, utterly alone. She looks at Monique and tells her to write that the glamorous, legendary Evelyn Hugo never even really existed. It was just a shiny mask. The real Evelyn is just completely heartbroken, and she just wants to go home. She decides it's finally time to join her daughter, her best friend, and her wife in death.
And when Monique asks if it bothers her that the world will only ever remember her for her 7 husbands, Evelyn drops arguably the hardest line in Hollywood history. No, because they are just husbands. I am Evelyn Hugo. And anyway, I think once people know the truth, they will be much more interested in my wife. Boom! She ensures that her final legacy won't be as some boy-crazy man-eater, but as a fiercely protective queer woman who loved Celia St. James with every ounce of her soul.
In the end, Evelyn leaves Monique with a choice and a manuscript that is guaranteed to make her a multimillionaire. She basically hands Monique a loaded weapon and says, "Publish this, tell the world exactly what a monster I am, and get rich." So I have to ask you guys, if you were Monique, sitting there with your whole life turned upside down, finding out this explosive, devastating truth, what would you do? Would you forgive Evelyn because she did it all out of this twisted love to protect her family? Or would you take those millions, drop the book, and completely destroy the legendary Evelyn Hugo's legacy forever? Let that sink in.